The University of Detroit Mercy presents another brand new episode of Ask the Professor, the radio show on which you match wits with University of Detroit Mercy professors in an unrehearsed session of questions and answers. Today's program was recorded using Zoom video conferencing technology.
The University Tower chimes, bringing another session of Ask the Professor, the show on which you match wits with University of Detroit Mercy professors in an unrehearsed session of questions and answers. I'm your host, Matt Maggio, and let me introduce to you our panel for today. To my left, to somebody else's right, or who knows what, it's Professor Dave Chow.
Pleasure to be here, as always.
Excellent. So you were kind of doing the...
I didn't know which way you're going because on my Zoom, you're beneath me. You're the center square today.
I am beneath you. You know that? It's true.
You're directly beneath me.
Oh, this is like a bad bunk bed right about now with bedwetters. I mean, this is strange.
So,
you don't have to embellish that, Dave.
Oh, sorry.
Dave, how are things on the other side of Berkeley?
I'm on 2 hours of sleep right about now. I'm a bit of a zombie.
Okay, well.
Oh, you show it well.
I'm Asian. Oh, I'm kidding.
Let's be careful here, folks. Let's be careful here. Things are going well, other than the lack of slumber?
For the most part, a little crazed, a little busy, so all's good.
Busy is good. It's a pandemic, you know?
Oh, I don't know. I could use a little bit of sleep, that's all.
Okay, well, I hope that you're able to achieve sleeping very, very soon.
If I was still driving to CCS, I would just tell my students I get plenty of sleep on the freeway. So
that's right.
No.
Someone who is acknowledging this fact, wondering just how true it might be, is Professor Beth Oljar.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't really want to think about the consequences of that being true, but I guess your luck is held up to this point. So
just go for it from there. We need to know your license plate, Dave, so that if we do see you, we can take the first exit.
Yes.
No, Matt,
Turn around.
Yeah, when I go southbound Woodward, I just throw the car into neutral during rush hour, just let them push me along.
If you were
Beth, how are you doing?
Everything would be orange anyway. So Drew's sister has been sending us pictures or posting pictures to Facebook about what it looks like at home now. And of course, 500,000 people have basically been evacuated or lost their homes in Oregon, which is kind of a record. We've never had.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Somebody basically blanket texted me the other day, Beth, and said, OMG, Google Orange San Francisco right now. And it's like suddenly the text stream just takes off because some of those pictures of Golden Gate, 10 a.m., it's apocalyptic. It's just incredible.
But the pictures from Oregon in what looked like fairly affluent neighborhoods with wide streets, there was just nothing. There were not timbers standing in these homes. They were just wiped out.
Where are the 500,000 people going, Beth?
Well, either to parts of the state that are unaffected, which I assume would be in the eastern part of the state, although Medford, which is in southern Oregon, I know the community right next to it has been devastated, and I think Medford was hit pretty hard. I assume they're going east.
Okay.
I mean, we're used to the, ash being all over everything.
Right.
That happened when St. Helens blew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got used to this half inch of crud that was everywhere, but not things just being utterly destroyed.
Yeah, who doesn't like a good coating of crud on a cool fall day? No, seriously though, I mean there is a weather pattern that's coming where we get affected by those fires as well. There is more chance of haze, there's more chance of fog where we live when it comes to things like that. The weather pattern comes across the state of Michigan from west to east, so we are affected by it. No matter.
I heard you could hear they were getting plumes of smoke as far east as Alabama.
Incredible. Wow. Absolutely incredible.
It's global warming. So,
Hey, Matt, did you see that one meme with San Francisco and comparing that to Blade Runner?
I get the reference. I can tell you that much.
The color match was unreal. So
I thought that you were going to tell me about the one where it's a skeleton clinging to a chain link fence with sort of a blast of fire blowing over it, and underneath it said, "It's a boy."
Oh, like
And
in
I was
Turkey.
like,
Ooh.
absolutely horrible, absolutely horrible.
In San Francisco, such a beautiful city.
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
Professor Dan Maggio is also here with us today. You look like you're in, regular sort of grayscale mode.
Charlie Brown mode.
I am wearing a T-shirt today,
Oh, well,
which is unusual. It's Friday. I'm glad we live in a state that sees relatively few natural disasters.
I would have to agree with that statement.
Hurricanes and fires and earthquakes. We are pretty lucky.
Mostly what we have to
What's the
deal
worst
with.
we get?
Ice storms.
Yeah, I would say the worst we get is like, Dutch Girl was closed for about 6 months, and we had to deal with that.
I have a Dutch girl story.
Yeah, when they run out of pork buns.
So last night I was driving home on Wednesday. I was driving home at 8:00 from class, and I drove by Dutch Girl. They were open, and there was a long line outside at 8:00 at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even think donut shops were open at night.
They are open when they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is the first time they've been open in 6 months.
I know that. Yeah, I know they just reopened.
That's a lot of stored up sugar needs.
And I'm surprised that they
I had it on my calendar.
that they didn't. I mean, you could be open and sell donuts through the window. So there must have been a reason why they chose to stay closed. Anyway, they're obviously very popular, and people were waiting for donuts on Wednesday night.
The Facebook headline was Dutch Girl to open next week, comma, gives us reason to live. I'm like, at least they're not, cutting any corners.
Yeah.
Professor Jim Tubbs is here looking pretty spry in his light green.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Count Tubbs.
Hello, G.
Hello, how are you? Elizabeth.
Things you said, I said it's been a week. You were like, join the club. How was your week, Jim?
Well, it's just been interesting. I mean, this teaching when you're not seeing anybody is just weird. Just weird.
It is.
Because, let's face it, teaching is a performance art anyway. And when there's nobody to perform to that you can see, nobody to make eye contact with, no eyes to see if they're getting it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
But then I'm not having all the flop sweat, which is kind of nice.
Well, yes. I wasn't going to bring that up, but
this is what I have in front of my camera.
Just saying.
I have eyes in front of my camera, so I make eye contact with the camera.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good idea. Because
that way I'm at least staring at camera, not like looking downward at my shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, the PowerPoint slide takes up most of the screen, so I'm just like a little bitty, thing in the corner, unless I'm introducing them to Mia, which I did this morning. But
narrator Beth.
You're like Kazoo from the Flintstones. You just sort of pop in the corner and you only see their head, and magic things happen whenever he speaks.
Those, of course, being the dulcet tones of Professor Jeff Boats.
Yeah, but
You get the bonus points for mentioning the great Kazoo during our podcast today.
Yeah, that or Mixelplick, right, from the Super Friends, where you only see their head and then the goofy stuff happens.
That's right. If he says his name backwards, he goes back to the dark dimension. That's right. Absolutely. So what do you do to remind yourself to look into the camera, Jeff?
Well, actually, as you can see, my camera doesn't work on my computer. It's about 10 years old, the one I use. So I guess I have to make up for the lack of my mug on their screen with as many goofy, stupid math jokes as I can think of. That seems to be the trick.
I feel like you've saved up a good number of those, though. You're good to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like dropped one in Calc 3 this morning. Calc 3 joke, right? What do you get when you cross a mountain climber with a goat? Nothing. You can't cross scalars. You got to know some calculus to get that one. But.
I'm looking at Dan.
Love it.
So
Dan's
because the mountain goat scales at the mountains. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
A little epsilon bit of humor there. Epsilon slightly greater than 0.
Well, folks, let me tell you, this is a program you can send us questions regarding anything. If you stump the panel, you win one of our prizes. Very nice. If you don't stump the panel, you can win a prize. You can send us the questions in a number of ways, emailing us at atp@udmercy.edu, find us on Facebook and or Instagram, or listen on your favorite smart speaker by asking it to play Ask the Professor at University of Detroit Mercy. I'll read the header paragraph here. Well, professors, it looks like you made it through the last 3 rounds, and I hope that you enjoy this one because it may get a bit more challenging. Welcome to part 4 of the saga of this former Detroit Mercy student setting up fierce queries against some of the apparently best brains in higher ed. This time, I advise you not to get too comfortable. I'm raising the bar to 19 of 20 to
Whoa.
Wait, we're some of the best brains in higher ed.
I can quickly compute that too. You got to be kidding me, percent.
Yeah, it's
And which car is she taking us to?
Oh my gosh, you all are cracking me up. This set of questions from various categories like the previous are or maybe like the rivers of lava, the traps and monsters that so many brave women and men of fantasy and adventure stories have tried to brave. Overcome these mental challenges if you dare, and if you must, I assure you that it won't be necessary, or it won't necessarily be a picnic inside a boiling volcano. Ooh, there's a bonus question at the end too. But again, I wish you the best. Natalie Bohe, Detroit Mercy alumna 2011, from Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Natalie.
Let's see what we've got cooking here. She writes in the what we like to call the Kimberly Richards style with lots of great background information.
Cool.
Vicks Vapo Rub is a classic treatment for cough and cold. It has become a cultural touchstone in the Hispanic and Latinx community. Its active ingredients are camphor, eucalyptus, and menthol. Name any one of its inactive ingredients, so a non-pharmaceutical based.
Petroleum jelly?
Petroleum jelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to give you for glycerin, Beth, the petrolatum, which was mentioned by both of these gentlemen. That's definitely one of them for sure. It also includes cedar oil, nutmeg oil, thymol, which for the record is the spice that's found in rosemary, and turpentine.
Turpentine.
Really?
Oh.
And you know what they don't tell you about Vicks Vapor Rub? It only works if your primary caretaker puts it on you.
Right.
It only works if your mom puts it on, or whoever is your.
It's like tickling. You can't serve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to sing Soft Kitty when you put it on?
I do not. No.
Baby Shark.
Yeah, exactly. Baby Shark. It says here that if you need to know, which of course we do, Vicks Vapor Rub can be used to treat fungus, acne, pain, acne, again, insomnia, and headaches, as well as repelling mosquitoes. So this is quite the versatile.
Really, on the
I
mosquitoes?
can see where it would repel mosquitoes.
Insomnia?
Apparently. I
The
believe.
eucalyptus oil soothes you to sleep.
Right, exactly.
A little bottle of wine.
What it says here is that some have been told to put a drop or two in their beverages. Like, that's pushing it a little bit for me.
Way too far, yes.
But interesting.
How do you get it into a drop?
We
Melt
have
it?
Heat it up.
Gravity.
Gravity.
Just a dollop. You could say dollop. Would that help, Jim?
A dollop.
Or
Are any of those ingredients poisonous?
Probably.
They're not good things to eat, I can tell you
Turpentine,
that.
maybe.
Professors, in November of 1983 on PBS, Sesame Street had a television special that had the gang in an overnight adventure where they accidentally get locked in the Metropolitan Museum of Art overnight. And Big Bird and Snuffleupagus befriend a 4,000-year-old Egyptian prince, by the way, played by a very young Aram Chowdhury. What was the episode titled? It had a good kid name.
A night at the museum?
That's a good guess, but that's not it.
Was it deal with the King Tut exhibit?
Meeting the mummy.
There is a hint. That's a good one, too. The hint is the title pertains to Cookie Monster's habit of pretty much chewing up everything.
Eating the Met?
At least
What
partial
name?
credit here. It was called "Don't Eat the Pictures," is what it was called.
Don't eat the
Oh,
picture.
all right.
Makes sense from the Sesame Street perspective.
And don't shred them like Banksy either.
Yeah, exactly, or halfway, right? It said that the actor that played the prince actually died about 10 years later. Suddenly, that's kind of sad. Actually, remember
There
watching.
wasn't some weird curse involved there, but
Exactly.
Like a Howard Carter thing.
Right. Tutankhamun.
or Bruce Lee and his son.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee, The Crow, absolutely. About time of year to watch The Crow. Just like to.
Great movie.
Great movie, great time of year. How many pounds did the heaviest circular pizza weigh?
Ooh.
49.
No.
Was it thin crust or a deep dish?
It was huge.
It 49 is a little low.
Oh,
750.
750 is really, really low.
Oh.
A ton?
That's a little low.
Good grief.
Good grief. Where was this pizza?
This pizza was made in 1990 in Norwood, South Africa.
And was it the size of the country?
Yeah. Did it take the whole town?
Well,
What?
I mean, I can give you the other numbers that will probably get you at least to the right order of magnitude.
What did the pan look like?
They didn't use one.
Yeah. 9,920 pounds of flour, 3,360 pounds, and 1,984 pounds of chopped tomatoes, 1,763 pounds of mushrooms.
Like 3 tons.
so probably more like 8 or 10 tons.
So I think Dan's been the closest here. It was 26,883 pound pizza is what it was.
Okay.
13 tons.
So 13.
Right?
Wow.
Now,
Incredible.
what I want to know is how did they cook it? Because
Yeah.
if they didn't cook it, to me, it's a big pile of stuff. It's not a pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm less impressed.
And
I
why
guess
would
I'm
anybody
also-
want to do that?
122 feet and 8 inches from across. Yeah.
I guess my question is, what did they do with it after they recorded the event? Did they serve it up?
They
Yeah.
invited 3 other countries to come in and have lunch.
How long would it take to slice it? I mean, just to.
I would just hate to see it go to waste.
No, it's true. It's true.
You know?
I don't quite know what to say about this. How about this one also using interesting things for interesting purposes? Barbasol. Barbasol, the product,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
can be used for cleaning surfaces and treating sunburn. True or false?
Yeah, it was a
I think
silver.
so. Yes. I know it can be used for cleaning surfaces.
Yeah.
I expect it can be used for sunburn too.
Yes, it has a cooling effect. That is exactly what Natalie's got here. Apparently, that's a true statement. So,
How deep into quarantine is Jim that he's discovered?
Oh my
I
God!
remember that skit from Saturday Night Live with Jane Curtin.
Oh my! Yeah, actually, I wonder if these questions are coming out of that, Jeff, from the perspective of people finding alternate uses for everyday things because they're just so bored, right?
Hey, you can use a Barbasol can to store dinosaur embryos.
You can.
Oh,
We've all
Jurassic Park.
seen Jurassic Park.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. Store the embryos. Store the embryos.
Poor embryos.
Combine the name of a famous child star with that of a famous person with autism. What name do you get?
Temple Grandin.
Shirley Temple Grandin. There you go. We're doing this Jeopardy style where we
Oh, okay.
do the portmanteau. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see here. A YouTube video uploaded in June of 2010 showed a parade that involved delivery trucks carrying what item from what confectionery company?
What year again was it, Matt?
It was June of 2010 is what it says here.
What item from what confectionery company?
It's a very famous confectionery company And the parade of trucks was driving down the Ohio Turnpike with a police escort. This is kind of interesting.
The last
It
ever
must have been
Necco wafers.
donuts.
What was that, Jeff?
The last ever Necco wafers.
No, that's a pretty good guess because
guess.
they did go out of business recently,
Hey
right?
Dan, where?
Hershey bars?
Yeah, no, that's Hershey,
Ohio.
PA, right? So what's in
No,
Ohio?
Ohio Turnpike, that's Toledo to Cleveland. Down to Warren.
Bakers.
Here, I'll give you the last clue if you can think about it. Apparently, they're from a confectioner called Malleys, Malleys. Does that ring any bells?
Not Mal. Oh, Malleys.
Mallow Cup?
Mallow cups?
Mallow Bar?
Apparently,
don't
Malleys
know.
is a confectioner in the Cleveland area, very well known for its chocolate strawberries. The parade was documented happening in the dead of night because they were afraid people were going to try to derail it to steal the chocolate strawberries. So, under cover of night, they decided to, deliver the chocolate strawberries. Pretty interesting.
Delivered to where?
It
To
doesn't
the store?
say.
Just to the store? Oh,
Yeah, just to the stores, I think. Yeah.
They're not that good. I mean,
yeah. Really, they're not that good. They're okay.
We're going to attack the trucks or something. They're not like Tallahassee and Zombieland.
Right.
A Twinkie. A
Oh
Twinkie.
my gosh.
It's not like the Mayo household in pork buns.
That's right.
Right. I knew that was coming.
And during Lent,
Okay. The North African country of Tunisia is home to what landmark, which is a residential peculiarity? This is interesting too.
They filmed Star Wars. Does that have anything to do with that?
Skywalker?
That's a reasonable thing, but that's not exactly what's being asked for here.
Tunisia.
Asia.
it's a residential peculiarity, or
It's a residential peculiarity. What do they have in Tunisia that is out of the ordinary?
Tunisia.
Residential peculiarity.
No idea. A lot of sand.
Plumbing
I
that
can think
runs
of.
They don't
backwards
have any
or-
freeways.
A lot of sand. What I was thinking is residential peculiarity. So this is a very out of the ordinary place for a human to live, and they actually lived there.
Clausen.
Here's our weekly reference to the great city of Clausen.
amen.
Is it caves or mountains or?
Yeah, Dan, you got it. It's the world's largest underground cave home system.
Oh,
And the people live outside on the outskirts of, let's see, Mata Mata. You'll find a small community of Berbers that have lived in these caves through a big open hole in the ground for hundreds of years. Yeah.
Kind of like Cappadocia in Turkey. Yeah.
Or kind of like Wyandotte, the salt mines.
Things are getting a little salty.
Salty.
Oh my gosh. Okay, how about the infamous corpse flower, which is endemic to Sumatra, is very purple, but totally stinks when it blooms on the most unexpected occasions. Do you have any idea what the scientific name for that plant is?
No.
It's a very interesting name.
What would be Latin for Limburger?
Right, exactly. That's the direction we're going here.
Plantus Puis.
I gotta give partial credit for that.
No, I'm thinking
Plantus Stinkus.
Thanatos.
Deodorant.
So wait a second. Beth, what did you just say?
I was trying to think of the Latin for
Deodorant.
corpse, but all I can
Odiferous
think of is the
gadzucus.
Greek for death, which is Thanatos.
Thanatos.
Thanatos. Yeah. For a second there, I thought you were going in the right direction. You're actually relatively close. Amorphophallus titanum. I was hoping that somebody would gravitate to the big idea. So big stink is basically what you're getting out of that. So you weren't all that far off, honestly.
I was going to go fungus among us, but that wasn't going to work. So
Exactly.
It doesn't smell bad if you're, a flesh-eating fly. I'm sure it smells lovely.
Smells lovely. That's
If you
exactly
like
right.
the smell
Thank
of
you for
rotting
that,
flesh,
Beth.
right? If you're that kind of a critter.
Let's see if you know your Michigan history here.
Uh-oh.
Once upon a time in the mid-19th century in Michigan, there was a kingdom on Beaver Island The king was a Mormon who made himself a king when he believed that God desired him to reign. For 6 years he reigned until he was assassinated, sadly, in 1856. Do you remember his name?
Ooh.
No, but I can picture the story and I can picture the sign on the island.
Same first name as someone on this call.
It's not Scott, is it? No. Something Scott, Thomas, Scott. James.
Yeah, James is the first name. That's good enough there. His name was James Strang. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Basically, split off from the Mormon Church, declared himself, chief of the island, and he also, for a short time, apparently was a Michigan Congress member. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, that's fitting.
Now, if Stephanie had been here, she would know that.
She would have known that because they go to Beaver Island.
Because they go to Beaver Island.
A beautiful, beautiful place, by the way. Is it possible to cut a cake without a knife or spatula?
Sure.
I would say
yes. Well, define what it means.
Item could you use to do
you can use wire,
or
string. Yeah.
This is Natalie's interpretation. It'd be great if I heard some stories of the professors telling how they've used dental floss to cut pastries. It was like, you know what? We'll get back to you on that.
Why slow it down? I mean, as a person who's competed in numerous pie and cake eating contests, gets in the way. Gets in the way.
Not just string. You could use lasers to cut a cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. If you had a powerful enough laser, that would be totally
reasonable. Just use a spoon or a fork. It'd be kind of messy, but
Exactly.
Actually, have you guys heard about some of the the laser cutting technology now? They're starting to use those in culinary arts. You can actually sculpt chocolate using a laser cutter.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to eat.
Awesome. Hey, let's wrap up this great set of questions from Natalie with one more true or false. So we got a 50-50 shot here.
Okay.
Quill pens were the most common writing tool during the early days of the Roman Empire. True or false?
False.
False.
Okay. Can you fill in the gap, though, Jim?
I think it was like graphite or chalk or something that they used.
I'm thinking stylus. Just carve into like wet clay.
I'm thinking lead. They used it in their pipes. They probably wrote with it too.
Actually, we get all the way to Jeff and it hits it. They were usually either made of reeds or metal with sharp tips for jotting things down. Quill pens did not come into play until just about the 6th century. So it's a very interesting twist historically there. Those are some great questions, Natalie. You always send us some.
Yeah, they are good questions.
They are.
We've got a full set of
still no ocean liner
questions.
I'm still waiting, but
I like those potpourri ones, though. Those are kind of cool.
Let's take a quick look as we wrap up our show here at the next thing on the list from, of course, the great Frank Burroughs and his family, ATP favorites. Last time, you remember, we did fictional places you'd like to visit. This one's a little more simple and practical. What's your favorite department store to go to?
All right. I'm sentimental. I'm Hudson's.
That's too bad.
But it doesn't exist anymore. So what do you go to now?
I don't.
There is no such thing as a department store, is there?
I guess I'd have to say Macy's because there's not a lot of competition.
There was one in Oregon when I was growing up called Meyer and Frank that is sure out of business now, but it was my favorite department store. I mean, now Dan's right. I mean, Kohl's, JCPenney?
Yeah.
I'm kind of afraid that if Mara were here, she would have answered Amazon, and then that would have been like, good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Or actually, didn't she spend some time in Toronto? Was it the Hudson Bay Company?
Hudson. Yeah. The Bay.
That's right.
Barkley was wrong. To be is not to be perceived. To be is to be for sale on Amazon. That's my theory of existence now.
So true. So true. Anybody can get published. Anybody can get published. Yeah, it's kind of sad to hear a term like department store. I wonder if I would ask my kids what's a department store, what the response would be. I mean, they know the word store. They know the word department. I'm not sure they've ever really put them together. And as I've mentioned previously on this show, I want to say at least once or twice, when I first was dating my wife and met her grandmothers, who were quite a bit older by generation than my own, they regaled Dave us with days when they would go down to Hudson's and just point at things, and then they would appear in boxes on their stoop the next day. Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
I knew someone who used to order sewing thread, and they would deliver it to her house from Hudson's.
Yeah.
Incredible.
On the secondary market, you ready for this? People are starting to collect old Hudson's boxes in bags now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I've got a couple.
Oh,
Yep.
Absolutely.
Macy's. Love Macy's.
Sure.
In San Francisco.
Yep. I'm afraid we reached the end of our show for today, though, so I'd like to thank our panelists, Jeff.
See you later.
Jim.
Goodbye.
Dan.
Take care.
Beth.
Adios.
Dave.
See ya.
Now these words from University of Detroit Mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, Ask the Professor is transcribed at the facilities of all the places where we live and work. But if we were actually here, we would be in the Briggs Building in the Department of Communication Studies in the College of Liberal Arts and Education at University of Detroit Mercy's McNichols campus. We're produced and technically directed by Michael Jason and Brian Masonville, and our executive producer is Professor Jason Roach. Until next week, I'm your host, Colonel Matt Maggio.